Well, welcome to today's Herbal Hour. We're going to be discussing electromagnetic pollution, what it means, how it affects our health, and what we can do to support better health through it. I'm Mary Bourne. I'm a traditional naturopath. I love sharing natural remedies with people because they work. They've been around for hundreds, even thousands of years. They're people tested, not in a petri dish. And they can be trusted to do many things. It isn't a target to use natural remedies. Oftentimes you're working on a system of health rather than just a ramification of a certain problem. You're working on why that problem is showing up. So on, by the way, you can reach me at drmary@bornforhealth.com if you should want to email me. And I would love for you to head over to my website, bornforhealth.com. There's lots of interesting articles. There's recordings of videos I've done in the past. There's also a link for my YouTube. And it may be very well why you are attending today's class. So what we are living in a sea of EMFs. If you can see every house, every household has at least one, often many devices that are tuned in to the internet for a variety of reasons. We have, I will show you what some of these look like in another slide, but we are immersed in a sea of electromagnetic fields, and we have cell phone towers and cell phones, radios, TV signals, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Your printer may be Bluetooth, and you may be wearing ear things that attach to the internet. We have radar, satellite signals, high voltage power lines, and even household wiring can emit certain energy that affects our health. We have smart refrigerators, smart meters, just so many different things now that are connected. And the big tech are pushing this thing, the Internet of Things. And what that means is that everything is going to be connected. Even we are going to be connected. So you won't even have to tell your device to play certain music. All you have to do is think it and it'll happen. So it's going to be a strange world that's coming along the pipe if big tech has anything to say about it. So the average person is exposed to 1 billion times more EMFs than they did 50 years ago. So when I was 25, we didn't have half of these, maybe even 3/4 of the things that we deal with now that interrupt energy, that have an energy of their own. So let me move me over here. There we go. So what are the effects of these EMFs? Well, we honestly don't know all of them. Some people claim they are completely harmless. I imagine those are the big tech people. Others suggest it may be very harmful. There are people that are extremely sensitive to it. And there are other people that it really doesn't seem to matter at all. So studies are mixed and results are often dependent on who has funded that particular study. So most of the studies that are being done now are studies to promote how your world will be better through EMFs. So what does the research say? Well, in studies done within the industry, about 30%, 27% found negative EMF factors. Well, of course, because they want to sell this to you. In independent, about 70% studies, 68% found negative effects. But again, somebody's going to fund those. These studies are expensive, and if you want to publish them, you have to go according to what that publisher dictates. So researchers who have found harmful effects have also had funding cut for their research. So, they'll get so far, and because they're finding a whole lot of negative stuff, big tech says, wait a minute, that's not what I paid you for. And they'll cut the study. And what you end up doing is trying to write a book about how you were, how your research was cut. So, the non-tinfoil guide to EMFs by Nicholas Pineault is a good book to read. There are lots of other books out there about energy and how the energy works, how it affects certain people and doesn't affect others. So one example of a negative study was done in 1984. The United States Navy spent about $50 to $100 million on a study that was published back then. And their research showed that exposure to harmful electromagnetic frequencies resulted in altered hormone levels, immune processes, cellular function, and even modified brainwave activity in humans. Now, why would the Navy want to know all of this? Well, obviously, there are ships that were emitting radar and receiving signals, submarines. All of these were getting higher and higher tech, and they wanted to know why these guys, sailors, were getting sick and acting kind of weird and maybe coming down with immune problems. And so they wanted to get into it. Well, $50 to $100 million back in 1984 is a boatload of money. And where did that information go? Why isn't it being shown now? Because big tech is just that. Big pharma and big tech have billions of dollars behind them, and they can suppress, they can show you research that supports their products. And of course, they want to make it like it's the best thing for you to be able to download a movie in 3 seconds versus 10. Crazy things like that, to be able to tell your TV to turn on a certain station. We have become so lazy that we don't want to go over and change a channel on our devices. Ridiculous when you think about it. So the other thing that bothers me is that with most things, you want to know what the risk is versus what the benefit is. We're not seeing any of these studies based on what the risk is. We're only being seen the benefits. So this also, the research showed that exposure to harmful electromagnetic frequencies resulted in these altered hormone levels. And what they found is that it can cause birth defects in chicken embryos and sterility in male animals. Now, if you think about how things were in 1984, 50 years ago, somewhat, and how they are now, that, in 1984, there weren't a whole lot of people around that were born one way and decided they wanted to be a different gender. There weren't people questioning who they were. They were mainly getting on with life. We had families, we had children, had two parents. There's so much now that has changed, and you have to wonder if some of this electrical influence on our hormones, plus GMO foods, all of these things factored in to why the world is the way it is, with so much anger and depression and um, how it is. Let's just put it at that. So let's understand a little bit about electromagnetic frequencies. Years and years and years ago, back in the early ages when we only had AM, FM radio, you can see here how it was the wave of the energy was slow and easy. And what they are describing it as that these waves were like the size of buildings. And then we went into microwave, which may be the size of humans. And then we migrated into infrared, which was the size of insects. And then it became the size of a point of a needle. And then we went even stronger, visible rays. This is the rainbow in here and all the different ultraviolets. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But these are the effects on the protozoans, and then on molecules, and then atoms, and finally the atomic nuclei through gamma rays. Now you see how bunched together these waves became. They became stacked. And this is where we got into 1G and 2G generation is what the G stands for. 3G, wow, that was when you didn't see the little circle going around anymore, like a dog following its tail. And then we got into 4G, and wow, look at this. We can download a movie and all. It was really amazing. We could talk to people. We didn't have to say, can you hear me now? No, everybody can hear everybody. The cell phone reception was really, really good. So what is the purpose of 5G? Well, 5G is not going to make your cell reception any better. Your cell reception is going to happen. Your cell reception is going to happen if you, let me just fix this for a minute here. Welcome back, Kathy. There we go. So your cell reception happens through 4G. The 4G actually goes through buildings so that you get reception. Now, there may be some things like lead that will stop the ray from actually getting in and you get reception. 5G is not going to make that penetration any better. What 5G does is allows for more bandwidth. So what that does is it allows for more storage. Really not that much faster unless you're like right near one of these little 5G cell boosters. So the purpose of that to the actual person is not that much greater. What it does is allow for more storage. So Google and the big tech can store more information. Now, what does that mean to you? Well, it means that they can identify what your purchasing preferences are. That Google, when you go on Google, it will remember, hey, you searched for this and look at what we have available for you. Now, a few years back when you'd go on Google, you would see the search abilities and there would be no AD next to the search abilities. Now there's AD. And so all of these people pay Google to be top on their list so that most people will just go to that first page and they will buy or connect with whatever the information is on that first page. But if you go way down to the bottom, you can select maybe the 10th page. And maybe the 10th page will give you honest information without the person having to pay Google to, maybe they can't afford to pay Google to be top on their list. So let's look at, let me be over here, see if that works on the, hope that works for the recording. So let's look at frequencies. We have gamma rays, hard rays, soft rays. Now these are all within the rainbow of rays, and they are the wavelength as well as the frequency and the energy necessary to create that frequency. So megahertz, million times per second, gigahertz is a billion times per second. So we look in here, and ultraviolet high frequency is between 1 dm and 1 m and 3 gigahertz and 300 millihertz. 4G smartphone operates at a 2.7 gigahertz, which is 2.7 billion times per second. Remember the stacking I talked about, where that's per second. Then we go to 600 milligrams per 2.1, 2.5 gigahertz. The 5G networks that are rolling out right now operate between 24 and 52.6 gigahertz, 52 billion times per second. So you see why they need more bandwidth to allow for that much usage of stack frequencies within that usage. So let's go to radio frequencies. Now, radio frequencies are used to send radio, TV, and satellite signals. Radio frequencies include cell phone transmissions, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. They are used in microwave ovens. Every wireless device in your home uses these frequencies. Now, magnetic fields are generated by electrical current running through these wires. So transformers and electric motors, high voltage power lines, and transformer stations generate very strong magnetic fields. Now, our family used to be, not so much anymore, used to be roller coaster aficionados. We loved to go on roller coasters. And the more recent roller coasters are magnetic. So in other words, there's a strong magnet that pulls the roller coaster up and over to the top and then releases and down you go. So and then when you're at the down part, there's another magnet pulling you up to the top part. It isn't the old clackety, clackety, clackety where where you were attached to gears, and the gears would drive you up to the top, and then the gears would release, and then you'd be going down. So these are extremely high-powered magnetic resonating. When you go in for electromagnetic resonating, you can't wear any metal. They have to take your rings off. They can't wear any watches or anything metal, because just like in a microwave, metal disrupts the field. So the wires, electric motors, and transformers in your home are generating smaller magnetic fields. When anything electric is on, it produces a magnetic field. Now, these are balloons, and if you've done this yourself, rubbed a balloon against your hair and created electricity, you understand. Or if you've shuffled your feet in the wintertime, so the drier air will cause more static. Maybe you've had a slip years ago when we used to wear this thing, get full of electricity and it would all stick to your body, and you'd have to use like an anti-cling spray to break up that electrical energy. Well, basically, these are the same things that are throughout our house, our refrigerator, all of our appliances. And when you have ungrounded electrical appliances, power cords, chargers, electrolytes, even when they're not turned on, they're still emitting this electrical energy. Now there used to be a whole lot of information about shutting these off before you left the house, that you might create a fire. In California, that's a huge concern because it's so dry and they have desert. It's a desert. So anything that plugs in to an electrical source is producing electrical fields. So why is all this important? Well, we have something called dirty electricity, and AC current is oscillating or vibrating because changing the direction of flow 60 times per second. So that's this type of thing, 60 times, which is a hertz in North America, and 50 in other parts of the country. That's why we have these different plugs, excuse me. And when you go to another country, you absolutely, need these converters because you have to convert, because your appliance is running on 60 hertz, theirs is running on 50. So improperly installed electrical wires, fluorescent light bulbs, dimmer switches, energy efficient light bulbs, smart TVs, smart meters, chargers for electricity, and solar panels. Let's see if I can move me again over here. They can, all of these things, they mess with the frequency. These things are filled with mercury, and you can't just throw them out. So these emissions that are given off by these are called dirty electricity. And this means that there's sparks of this that we actually can't see running through our household. Now there's devices that you can get that actually attract that dirty electricity and get them out of the breathing air. This is a device that we've used. It's called a key machine. We have a big one in our living room, and it's supposed to collect all this dirty electricity. So now there's something called ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. And we're supposed to believe that if it doesn't produce heat, it's okay. But tune in. It's well known that ionizing radiation, X-rays and gamma rays, can be harmful in excessive amounts. Why? Because there is no getting rid of them. They accumulate in our body like aluminum. It's very difficult to get rid of aluminum and mercury. They just stack on top of each other in our body and accumulate that way. Non-ionizing radiation is assumed to be harmful, except in not harmful because they don't create enough heat. Remember this symbol? Now they've made it look like a pretty little flower, and they want to make you think that it's no problem. So examples, microwaves can cook food by agitation. You know, if you rub your hands together, basically you create heat. And that's what it's doing to the molecules in your food. It's agitating those molecules to create heat within the food. Generally needs some kind of liquid to do that. So if there's something dry, it's not going to happen. If you're a microwave user, you know that fats, the molecules in fat create a higher intense heat than like a vegetable, the liquids in a vegetable. Now, sunlight can burn your skin. We know that. Now, we can go out in the sun and it can be no problem. But if you stay laying out in the sun, you actually can get sunburn. We know that. Some people sunburn quicker than others. Some people, their skin turns to tan. Some people never tan. So it isn't the sun as much it is the receptor of that sun. So safety tests are generally conducted around how much radiation you can handle without heating up the tissues. Now, why is this important? Well, we know that energy fields exist in living things. Anybody in natural health understands that these are like meridians and they're energetic fields. And acupuncturists use those to facilitate healing. People doing muscle testing use these as a way to connect with the body. We use this flow of energy in reflexology. If you've taken some of my classes on healing energy, we know that fast like stroking actually works on this energetic field. Chinese doctors measure each one of these pulse sites to determine what's going on with the body. So we know we have this energy. We also know that if we scuff our feet and touch something, we can get a shock. So we know we have this energy. If you've held a baby and been compelled to touch or to kiss the top of their head, we know there's energy coming out of that baby's body, and we want to connect with that baby because that skull hasn't closed up, and the energy is just absolutely pouring out of that baby's head, and also connecting and bringing energy into that baby's body. And it's a way for them to understand the world around them. So we know we have this energy. We also understand how other energy fields can affect our body. In Kirlian photography, you can actually see auras. We see, so, and they're not all the same. Some people emit this beautiful energy. We understand about chakras and how colors can and music can affect our energy. We understand about crystal energy. If you've read the book on water and the energy fields of water. So we are connected, and we understand that we can heal with energy. We also understand there are some people that are far more in tuned with this energy. If you've ever seen Medicineless Hospital, it's a video about these Chinese doctors who are in the background while this woman has a cancerous tumor removed from her body without any kind of anesthesia. It is quite amazing. So there are various devices that are used to affect these energy fields. We know magnets, electrical pulses, lasers. Now, lasers can be either beneficial or they can be harmful. They operate at different fields. We had something called sine wave energy in our clinic years ago that would pulse. And I think now they call it a TENS unit, but you can control certain pain impulses by using that. So we're still learning aspects about the energetic field. We're still learning how the sun influences these fields. So look at all of the energy disruptors that we live with. And it would be a good idea for you to stay away from these energy directing devices that are being put up. Make sure that you're connecting with what your city's council is doing, where they're going to put up these 5G towers, because once they're up, they're up. It's much easier to prevent something than it is to try and take it down. So EMFs in the brain, brain exposure to EMFs may reduce memory and cognition. They cause oxidative damage in the brain. So taking something that protects your body against oxidative damage on a daily basis, maybe even more than once a day, would be helpful. We know that some people are sensitive and it could cause headaches. If you've ever had a phone at your ear for like 10 minutes and you start feeling the heat of that phone, get that phone away from your head. It has caused tinnitus and ultimately can increase your risk for brain tumors. So even the device in the instruction manual tell you not to put it close to your head, that you should talk into the speaker part of it. So EMFs and cancer, there is some possibility that exposure to radio frequencies may increase the risk of brain tumors, breast cancer, and other forms of cancer. This is a subject of debate, but the World Health Organization did classify RF radiation as a possible carcinogen in 2011. So I'm going to tell you about my niece's husband, Michael. Michael is an executive. He did a lot of driving, does a lot of traveling, and a lot of time on the phone. And so he would hold the phone, his cell phone, next to his ear and multitask at the same time. Maybe he was using his computer at the same time. And all of a sudden he started getting some sharp pains behind his ear and down into his neck. And pretty soon, it was this bulging thing going on, and he had developed a tumor, and it was cancerous. And now he has this scar leading down his neck. They say he got it, they got it all. It's been quite a few years, and he hasn't seen any return of it, but he does not use his cell phone next to his ear anymore. So research suggests this EMF may cause problems in children. Well, duh, do you think? First of all, you have to realize that the flashing draws them in, and it's almost like something like an addiction that you cannot draw your face away from it. We understand that that flashing causes us to have less and less attention span. I did a class on this not too long ago when I talked about the brain, so I'm not going to go into a lot of that. You can find it on my YouTube channel. Decreased attention span contributing to attention deficit, reduced memory and attention, headaches, possible increase in risk of diabetes, potential problems with bone growth, and it may contribute to the development of leukemia. Leukemia has seen escalations like none before. And so we have to look at these things. Why is this happening? We're not allowed to expound upon some of the research that is found, but if you dig deep and know the right channels, you can find this information. So fertility and hormone, this is, the elimination of mankind. How scary is that? So there are studies that show carrying a cell phone in one's pocket can reduce male fertility and cause damage to the testes in men. And in women, putting it in your bra, oh my word, how stupid is that? So you do not want that direct, it's emitting as well as looking for constantly, unless you have it on airplane mode. Then that disrupts the constant looking for information, but it's still emitting RF. So EMF sensitivity, some people appear to become sensitive to EMFs, which is a condition known as extreme electro hypersensitivity, EHS. And the symptoms include dizziness, irritability, anxiety and depression, headache, difficulty concentrating and remembering, we call it brain fog, joint pain, tinnitus, and just general poor health because it affects our immune system. So reverse polarity. Now, there is what we call the governing meridian that flows from our lips up over our head, down our spine, and up to the anus. Whoops, I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. Then we have what's called the central meridian. So where the governing meridian lets off, the central meridian takes over and goes up to the lips. And that's the flow of energy. Now, if you have a pet and you want to rub them, you are not going to pet that pet going up their back. It's just common sense that you pet an animal stroking down their back. Those people who have done any kind of karate or any kind of those martial arts know that if you do this to your opponent, in other words, you take your hand and move the energy flow up through this area, you weaken their reflexes. So we know there's a lot of things that point to how these facts all come together, and we just never put two and two together. So there are certain tests that you can do to determine whether or not your polarity is switched. And I go into that in another tape where we have done some classes on muscle testing. But some of the things that affect it are dehydration. So you need to stay hydrated. Physical trauma can shock that and interrupt it. Excessive exposure to EMFs or magnetic vortexes. So for example, the astronauts have to re-educate their polarity because of the lack of gravity. As you can see here, this particular meridian goes this way. Get me out of the way for a minute. So it follows up from the head down up through the feet. So that's one of the big things that people talk about is earthing. And earthing takes energy from the soil, from the ground, sends it up through the body, brings it up over from the top of the head outward, and it circulates in that way. Now, one of the ways you can improve it, and you don't have to test it to do this, is by thumping on the thymus. Now, the thymus is right here, right along the sternum, right behind that sternum. And simply do this, sort of like the old Tarzan yell. Rawr! Yeah. So thump your thymus. Spirulina is a good one. Now, here's a good thing to do when going through time zones. So like if you're in an airplane and you're on the airplane going from Detroit to California, you're going to go through 3 time zones. And so about every hour or so, just do this. Take a couple of deep breaths, and you will find that you won't be so affected by jet lag if you do that. So there's also some wonderful formulas that we have through Nature Sunshine that I'll leave links for in the description below. Spirulina, bee pollen are high energy foods that seem to get rid of free radicals. And we talked about oxidative stress and the need for free radical collection or protection. So now, tin hat, whoops, I'm sorry. I used to laugh. In fact, I used to laugh at these people who would walk around with this tinfoil on their heads. But maybe now we see that there's, some validity to that. So here's another thing too, these stations, you do not want to live within a mile of these things. Now they say, well, quarter mile. I say you should try to stay at least a mile away from these substations. So cell phone towers are harder to not be close to. I heard one gentleman talking about, he came home from work one time. He lives in an apartment building in New York, and there outside his window, they had put up a cell tower, 5G cell tower. So, unless you know what's going on, people, it's you're just, subject to the waves and whim of those people that are in big tech and big pharma. So, high voltage power lines, you need to look at where these are. We live within a fourth of a mile from an airport, but luckily we don't live in the path of the airplanes, but we still live near those towers, and some of it may be affecting us. If you're interested in learning how to dowse, this is a dowser that there's information on the internet about how to do some dowsing. Some people are more adept at it than others. It's a great way to try and find a water source as well. We had a neighbor that was really good at it. We were trying to find a connection one year to put our sprinkler head in, and he went right to it. It was just kind of fun. So reduce your exposure. Avoid talking on cell phones for long periods of time. Use wired phones whenever possible. If you can still find those where you're not like an Ethernet cable. You can use wired, the wired phones or wired computers. So minimize time on smartphones, tablets, or computers. I feel so bad that the way things are now, that children are stuck on those for hours on end as their way of learning. They should be outside, taking walks, looking at nature, learning from what nature has to provide for them instead of glued to a screen. Don't buy smart appliances, for heaven's sakes. You don't need a refrigerator telling you what's for dinner. So turn off Wi-Fi. And you know, Siri is just listening. Alexa loves to hear your conversation. And whether you know it or not, she's listening. And sometimes she'll respond and you'll go, what the, how did you get turned on? So they're all around us. And unless you have your phone on airplane mode, she's listening. And turn it on when you want to look at who's texting you or who's making a call, but don't have it on during the night. You don't need it on. There are such things as clock radios. Um, there's even a Big Ben type clock. So you don't need your cell phone waking you up. And get rid of that smart TV in your bedroom because it's constantly emitting signals. And if it has a camera, it's watching you. Interesting. So use wired connections such as Ethernet wherever possible. Shut off unnecessary appliances at night, including Wi-Fi, and put them on airplane mode if you can. Create distance. Don't sit too close to computers or computer monitors. Don't put your laptop on your lap. Keep your cell phone away from your head by using the speakerphone or wired headset, or even these air tubes whenever possible, which interrupts the connection. And avoid carrying your cell phone in your pocket or in your bra. Keep your cell phone and all other electrical devices as far away from your bed as you can while sleeping. I think you should just leave it in the bathroom. Pick it up in the morning. You don't need that thing near you interrupting your sleep. So there are some energy sources. There are lots and lots of information, devices that you can buy that will tell you how much radiation is in certain areas, where it's highest. You can get certain crystals, but look into what feels right to you and how you can best protect yourself. The healthier you are, the greater your resistance to all harmful environmental influences. So eat a good diet is really important. These are high energy, nutritionally dense foods. Hopefully they are organically grown. We have been connecting with Azure Standards. It's like a co-op that you order once a month and go pick up stuff. And I've been extremely pleased with them. I'll actually leave a link to them. I don't have any affiliation with Azure Standards, but they're a great company that have lots of wonderful organic things, locally sourced whenever possible. So stay well hydrated with pure water, take supplements that support health, and those include the spirulina. We have wonderful super algae formula that has 3 different algae in it. Bee pollen, easy to add to your food. A Chinese recipe that encourages the energy fields, strengthen the energy fields. We have a mineral tonic that helps to support the strengthening of the energy fields. After they've been, like in radiation therapy or chemotherapy, those disrupt that field. Even liquid chlorophyll can be beneficial. Or you can get a whole food green drink, or check into an antioxidant formula. So we want to cultivate a positive mental attitude, PMA, and nourish your mind with wholesome, uplifting ideas and thoughts. This alone may be a reason to reduce your time on these electronic devices, as social media and internet is often filled with negative content that make you feel depressed or secluded. Get out, take walks, enjoy fresh air whenever possible. If you have a lake near you, the energy from the water is very health benefiting. Trees, even in the wintertime, evergreens, right now during Christmas time, go out and smell these beautiful things, juniper, all of these cedars, they emit a great energy that you connect with. I haven't gone into essential oils, but essential oils have been proven to be very beneficial. You can go to mercola.com and go through the different information, like frankincense that helps with the meridians and the brain energy. So I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic and we will go through some questions. If you have any questions that you have thought of during the class, I appreciate you muting your phones. I again will put some information, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description below of the links that I've shown you, and some of the links that from my YouTube videos that will give you more information if you so choose. So, all right, so if that's it, I'm going to stop the recording. So until next time, next month, this is Dr. Mary for the Health of It.